Hello everyone, this is Father the Everchosen, bringing you some new Total War Warhammer 2 news. Today there was an update that dropped for Total War Warhammer 2, bringing us the Black Orc Big Boss, a new hero unit for the Greenskins, and he is a very welcome addition and a pretty darn good unit to add into any of your existing armies. This video will be not only an announcement for the Black Orc Big Boss, but also I was able to snag a pretty good quick battle featuring a Black Orc Big Boss on my side, but also on my opponent's side. So looking at the Black Orc Big Boss, his model is, it's a good model, but if you look at the Black Orc Big Boss, looking at his face, he's got the same eye scar, and actually comparing the ears, I think it may just be a slight, just taking the head off and placing it on the Big Boss's body. But it's not a bad thing, especially for free content. The Black Orc Big Boss is smaller than Grimgore, and Grimgore still has, he's got the nose ring. Obviously, you can't see his nose, but I do like the look. I like this big, almost Mad Max-esque mask on the Big Boss. But we're going to take a look at him. This Black Orc Big Boss and his counterpart, which is on his Warbor, they're both fully kitted out. The Black Orc Big Boss typically will run you 1161 with all of his abilities active, but none of the items or mounts, which isn't too bad. But if you want to bring him bare bones with none of his abilities, I don't know why you would want to do that, especially with one of his abilities. But if you bring him just, with nothing on, he costs 775. And without any of his abilities, he's still a pretty darn good combatant. But really what you want to bring him for is his abilities. And the first ability that you're really going to want to bring is this Rabble Rouse. Immune to psychology, 40 meters around himself, can really help you keep together your goblin units and your some of your trolls and stuff. It really can be helpful to save from those psych shocks that they get from fear and terror causing units. And this ability itself costs 147 gold, so it's not too bad. His other two abilities that he gets are Give Back Ear, which is just a pretty standard ability for lords, but to be able to have it on a hero as well, stacking them really can help just keep things in the fight longer. That plus 16 leadership, you can pop it on Grimgore, and then you can pop it on the Black Orc Big Boss as well. So keeping that 16 leadership for 28 seconds, and it's not a 60-second cooldown. So by the time Grimgore's is done, and then the Black Orc Big Boss is done, you're just about halfway through the cooldown, which is nice. And if you bring two Big Bosses, then you can just kind of keep cycling it through, trying to keep your units around. And that's going to run you 73 gold. Not too bad. The last thing he gets is Heroic Killing Blow. That plus 50% armor piercing and plus 50% base damage. It'll run you 145 gold, but it lasts 25 seconds, and it really does beef him up into a pretty good place. So all that together, plus he's got two very good items. The first item that you can pick on him is the Brass Cleaver, a plus 9 melee attack to all allies in range, and that's going to run you 156 gold, but that's going to bump a lot of your maybe not super well built for melee attack units up quite a bit. I mean, 9 melee attack, a constant effect, is very helpful. That's bumping this guy himself from 55 up to 64. And Not to mention, if you put him on the Warbor, you can also bring the Brass Cleaver and buff up some of your boar units, which have pretty low melee attack, and um, they can really dish out some damage. And not only on the charge, but if you forget about them for a few seconds, they'll still be doing enough damage where, you know, the cost effectiveness of leaving them in melee outweighs, or at least can be slightly mitigated, can slightly mitigate the damage they will take by staying in melee. And the last item that he has, which is a very interesting and very good item, is this Dragon Slayer's Fang. Now, it is pretty costly. It's going to run you 243 points, but it's going to give you plus 23 armor, bringing you up to 133, and plus 9 melee defense, bringing you up again to 64. This is once he drops below 50% health. So once he drops below 50% health, he's going to be that much harder to kill. And it's, you know, it I think saved my Black Orc Big Boss in the quick battle that you guys will watch here, because not only that armor, but the melee defense buff is really what you're going to like there. And coupling that with the Brass Cleaver, you know, 64 and 64, you pop over and you look at Grimgore. Grimgore's only at, you know, he's 79 melee attack, but his melee defense is much lower. Obviously, that's due to, you know, that silver shield on the Black Orc Big Boss, but 64 melee defense is nothing to snuff at. So, with all the abilities and both the items, that's going to run you 15-15 for the Black Orc Big Boss. Then, like I had mentioned, you can put him up on the Warbor. And going from the foot to the Warbor, you're going to get an additional 508 hit points, 29 speed, 50 weapon strength, and 20 charge. And you're going to, you know, it's going to run you another 300 points. But if you want to pair him up with like the Broken Tusk Mob or just some regular boars, or you can even have him pal around with your shaman, who's also on a boar. They're the same speed. You know, the Black Orc Big Boss can protect him if he needs protecting. But that immune to psych and the Brass Cleaver putting on him, like I said, that's really what you're going to want to use that for. Get him stuck in with some boars, and he'll be able to trade better with other cavalry and stuff in a prolonged melee engagement. So that'll run you 18-15. Pretty expensive for a hero, but I think he definitely, with his Brass Cleaver and the Rabble Rouse, it really can help keep those boars in there. So we'll be moving over to the quick battle here. And here we have the quick battle. So just like all my other quick battles, we'll run through my opponent's army real quick, and then we'll pop back over, take a peek at mine. So my opponent decided to go wide, brought 5 orc boys, all of them rank 3 gold chevron as his front line. He ended up bringing 2 goblin wolf rider archers and a single forest goblin spider rider. He's got a snotling pump wagon with flappas, 2 of those. He brought Loogie Boogie Spore Splodas, the ROR snotling pump wagon. He ended up bringing 2 goblin archers, 2 regular orc air boys, and the Rusty Air ROR night goblin archer. He brought a standard orc war boss on a boar, and he brought a Black Orc Big Boss with the Brass Cleaver, but it does not look like he brought it with anything else besides the Brass Cleaver and the Warbor. So that'll bump, you know, that's what, 456 on top of the 775. So he's, you know, not terribly expensive for a pretty darn good, you know, armored unit that can get stuck in and fight for quite some time. And he, I believe, has units, yes, over here. Let's begin this. Yeah, he does. Those are the only units. He also has a Forest Goblin Spider Rider and a Goblin Wolf Rider over here. So that's my opponent's army. He's definitely depending on his Orc boys to do most of the work. So for myself, I went a little more elite than he did. I did bring 2 Savage Orcs. I had enough money to rank them up once with the copper or a brass or bronze chevron. I brought 2 Orc boys and 2 Savage Orc Biggins. I also brought 2 Stone Trolls, the Rusty Arrows as well, a Forest Goblin Spider Rider, the Death Creeper ROR, and an Orc Shaman with both, I think, Brain Burster and the ever popular Foot of Gore. He is on a boar. I brought Grimgore with his full kit, and I brought, as I said, the Black Orc Big Boss with his full kit. So we'll jump into this. I decided to go, as many of you notice, I like things in 2s, and every time that I've been playing the greenskins as of late, I really have developed a big love for the Stone Trolls. I like to couple it a lot of the time with the River Hag, because she can buff them, their leadership, and give them terror with Aspect of Dread Knight. But this time I wanted to use the Black Orc Big Boss since he was the new unit. So we'll jump into this. Instantaneously, I noticed that my opponent's army is a little offset. I quickly run through, make sure he doesn't have any artillery, and I just start advancing. Now he's going to bring over all of his skirmish cav, and he's going to just start, peppering these Savage Orc Biggins, and they're going to get quite damaged, but they do have this 25% physical resistance, and the only thing that's really going to be hurting them is this poison, so it'll slow them down, but they're going to eat quite a bit of that damage. I do start moving my Orc Shaman this way so that he can try to drop a Foot of Gork over here. I've left the Death Creepers back here just in case my opponent did have anything behind me, which I do see that he ends up having something behind me. And the Death Creepers will be kiting those 2 units around the battlefield for most of the time. I tried to surround these guys, moving the Stone Trolls off, but it doesn't really work. My Savage Orcs are still have quite a bit of their models, but they are heavily damaged. I do decide to charge in my Stone Trolls here. Probably should have waited a few more moments so that I could have had the rest of my armor nearby, but these Stone Trolls get some heavy work done early doors. That charge is devastating most of the time. I end up hitting this Orc War Boss with "You're next," and at this point my opponent has pulled his Orc War Boss and the Black Orc Big Boss out, so I pull Grimgore and the Black Orc Big Boss over, and of course Grimgore and my Black Orc are going to beat a regular Orc War Boss and a another Black Orc Big Boss. But this fight starts breaking down pretty quick. I've got my Stone Trolls over here in the Orc boys, and I pretty much just try to keep these guys busy off to my flank. Like I said, the Death Creepers are kind of kiting these guys around. I've got my Savage Orc, my Savage Orc Biggins over here. They're taking on Loogie Loogie Spore Splota, and they're making short work of it. I've got my Shaman in here, and he's dropping some spells occasionally. You'll see him drop a few Brain Bursters throughout the course of the battle. A little one there, more to disrupt them from firing than anything. My Rusty Arrows are taking on theirs, but their Rusty Arrows are, I believe, just trying to trade with my hero in Grimgore. So you look here, his Black Orc Big Boss is quite low now. Grimgore's in here. He's got the Scroll of Shielding on him from the Shaman, and these two are making quick work of their leadership. I do get the Shaman involved in here, and I get my Wad to trigger, which is quite helpful. Everybody starts tearing through a little faster. Grimgore's Bloodforged armor makes a nice little pocket for him. My opponent did drive off my stone trolls over here. They do end up coming back, and they'll just regenerate over here. A nice foot of gore going down here, just decimating these goblin wolf riders, doing quite a bit of damage. You can see all those tiny wolf corpses. They do get a hold of my rusty arrows with these force goblin spider riders, and one of the things that you may notice if you've watched me or any of my quick battles, I do a lot of the time forget units and should reactivate them. I do end up getting these stone trolls back in against these orc boys. Still back over here, the death creepers, and even at this point I'm checking back on these guys occasionally because I really do need them up in the melee. But they've taken out the one forced goblin spider rider, and now they're taking out the goblin wolf rider, and everything at this point, it's just slightly in my favor, mainly because their orc war boss and their big boss are so low, and I've still got 3 heroes on the field. Grimgore just above half health, the Black Orc Big Boss again just above half, and then the Orc Shaman only down about 25%. So at this point I decide Grimgore is going to go against these Arrow boys, and my Shaman's going to chase down some of these routing units. This troll over here will get reactivated here eventually, but probably should have reactivated him earlier. The only good thing about the trolls is that as he sits over here, he's regenerating. So the Shaman's going to keep everything going. Grimgore and my Black Orc boss get in here. Your next gets triggered, and this Black Orc Big Boss goes down. He tries to pull his war boss in here. He's surrounding Grimgore with all of these different units, but in the end, Grimgore is just too much for them. I do notice that Grimgore is getting surrounded though here in a moment, and my Shaman gets a nice brain burster in here, making a nice pocket for Grimgore, and I target down his war boss, and his war boss dies. Grimgore just dealing some devastating damage. Again, looking around, my trolls are coming in. These trolls are coming in. I've got Savage Orc Biggins over here, but truthfully my opponent has more units at this point. The problem is that his skirmish cav are almost all out of ammunition. If he had kept the skirmish cav with a healthy amount of ammunition, he could have just, Cantabrian'd almost around me and just kept picking things off. But I've got my Orc Shaman coming through. He's taking out the Rusty Airs, keeping everything going. Grimgore's in here with his Orc War Boss and these trolls. And it's just a mess in here. But look at Grimgore in here. This is what Grimgore should have been all along. He still can get pretty messed up from arrow fire and war machines and the like, but once he's in melee, he's devastating. I do like the Black Orc Big Boss. I think he definitely couples well, and I really love the Stone Trolls. I think they are one of the best units that came out of the Warden and the Paunch DLC. These Stone Trolls do get shattered, however, unfortunately, but at this point, I'm chasing down their routing units. They have no leadership left. Their infantry corps is, just crumbling around them. Grimgore has about a third of his hit points left, and now you can really take a peek at that Black Orc Big Boss. 64, walking around with the Dragon Slayer Fang active, 133 armor. He is a menace. Grimgore, he's also benefiting from that brass cleaver, bumping him up to 79. And the Stone Trolls right now being immune to psychology. They've got the +9 melee attack, bumping them up to 45 from 36. and obviously they're regenerating the whole time they're in this fight. 88 kills on them, just devastating. I decided to pull the Orc Shaman back towards the rest of my army. Didn't want him to get singled out. Still have some magic that I can drop with him. Black Orc Big Boss is in here fighting these Forest Goblins archers. And just having a grand old time in here. I'm going to get a nice charge with these stone trolls. Or maybe I did. There was no charge order. They were going through. They're going for these archers, but again, as soon as those stone trolls get in there, they cause fear, and everything just starts to rout. Finally, get a hold of the Death Creepers. They've got 30 kills. They've only lost 2 unit models. We've got no more ammunition, but at this point, I'm just going to have them come through and pick off units. These Snotling pump wagons aren't going to be a threat to them. Get a hold of the archers. And at this point, the writing, it may say that he could possibly bring it back. And I only have 77 troops left compared to his 444. But the problem is that he lost, his lord and his, his hero, and everything is exhausted through here. They're taking leadership penalties. Let's take a peek at these orc boys. These are triple gold chevron, and they're walking around with 17 leadership because the lord is dead. They've got friends routing, and obviously the damage sustain's the big thing. But just kind of walking through at this point. The stone trolls walking around with 153 kills, and they've gained themselves a chevron and a half. Black Orc Big Boss walking around with 47 kills. The Orc Shaman with 75 going up to 78. Slowing down the rest of the heirs was the most important part there. And Grimgore, 54 kills with a third of his health left. These Flappers try in vain. They've got heroic killing blow on. I'm keeping these stone trolls in here. 60 leadership on trolls. And at this point, my opponent's army just kind of dies around. But it was an interesting fight. I was happy to see 2 Black Orc Big Bosses on the field. Again, I think, even though mine cost 1815, I think he had more bang for his buck with, especially seeing my opponent not bring Rabble Rouse. I think it was a weird choice, especially with how many units do cause fear on the Greenskin army, whether it's Azag up on Skullmuncha, any of the trolls, the Ragnarok, the Giant, though you probably aren't going to see that. But I think Rabble Rouse is definitely the best ability that he has. Heroic Killing Blow definitely makes him a good, good in a hero versus lord or hero versus hero fight, especially if he's backing up somebody as beefy as Grimgore. And that Brass Cleaver, that +9 melee attack, is nothing to snuff at. If you put him on foot and you leave him in your front lines, even if you were to take, let's say you took 2 Black Orc Big Bosses with the Brass Cleaver, and nothing else, so 775 plus 156 is what? That'd be 781 plus 50 would be 831, so 931 plus, times 2, so that's 1862. So for the cost of a little over 2 fully kitted out Black Orc Big Bosses, you could take 2 of them on foot with the Brass Cleaver, buffing up your whole front line with +9 melee attack. Let alone if you were to add in, an extra, 290, what would that be? 294 points more, bringing them just over 2,000 to get Rabble Rouse and the Brass Cleaver. Can be just devastating having them in there. So I think the Black Orc Big Boss, though You may have wanted a Black Orc War Boss or Black Orcs with a variety of weapons, and trust me, I want them too, but I think this is a good start, especially with it being free. Just dropping as an update. I hope CA kind of does this in these dry spells in between DLCs. Drop a hero here or there. I know it's free, and I know that these people are working hard to bring us the content, but it definitely breaks up the monotony of these long dry spells between DLCs. So, looking through Grimgore and the Black Orc Big Boss, racking up 105 kills between the two of them. That Shaman walking away with 79. That Foot of Gork that he dropped was devastating. The Brain Bursters are really nice just to knock units down. But then if you look at my infantry, this Orc boy walked away with 0 kills. But those Stone Trolls, 160 kills, the 41 on these Death Creepers, and they were able to kite around, the Forest Goblin Spider Riders and the Goblin Wolf Riders for a while. The Spider Riders did break off, and they got into the Rusty Errors, but not before the Rusty Errors got 45 kills, and their Rusty Errors only got 10. I came with a more elite army. He came with a wider army, and it really just depends. Sometimes going wide is better. If you can surround your opponent, then they take penalties from being flanked or attacked in the side. But if you can't successfully surround, then you lose the advantage of going wide, because to go wide you have to go with cheaper, not as good units. But I thank my opponent for a good fight and a good showing for our Black Orc Big Bosses. I thank CA for dropping this content, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the breakdown and you enjoyed the quick battle itself. If you did, please drop a like. I love seeing your comments down below. I try to respond to all of them. And as always, I have been Father of the Ever-Chosen.